Appeals for Tuesday, January 16th, 2024 has been called to order. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to begin by welcoming our three new board members, Lauren Holmes, Zach Meadowbrooks, and Nick Horton. Beginning to my left, we'll do the introduction of board members.
Zach Middlebrooks.
Billy Carmen.
Adam Danella.
Hodge Patel.
Zach Stafford.
Nicholas Horton.
Lauren Holmes.
Thank you. The next item on our agenda this evening is to elect a chair for the Board of Zoning Appeals for the 2024 calendar year. I'll open the floor for a motion in a second.
I'd like to nominate Hodge Patel as chair.
Second.
We've got a motion from Billy to elect Hodge as the chair for the 2024 calendar year with a second by Zach. Is there any discussion? Seeing that there's no discussion, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes unanimously. Next item on the agenda is to elect a vice chair for the Board of Zoning Appeals for the 2024 calendar year. I'll make a motion to nominate or to elect Adam Danella to the vice chair position.
I'll second.
We've got a motion by Hodge to elect Adam Danella as vice chair and a second by Billy. Any discussion? Seeing that there's no discussion, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay. Motion passes unanimously. Next on our agenda is the introduction of community development staff.
Hey everyone, my name is, do you good, Adam?
Yeah. Did I need to say aye or abstain? Or did it matter?
No, you can vote.
Okay. Aye.
I said it was
Okay.
unanimous.
Well, I know you said that. That's why I was like, well, yeah.
Let's continue with the introduction of
Okay,
Community
well,
development staff.
my name is Emily Schnari. I'm planner 2 here at the city, and I'm going to be Michael's backup liaison for the BZA this year.
Michael Cartman, Senior Planner. I'm the BZA liaison, so feel free to contact me before the meeting if you have any questions while I ruin the packets.
Awesome.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is approval of the agenda for this evening's meeting meeting. I'll seek a motion to approve tonight's meeting agenda. It's published by the city of Milton.
Motion to approve. Second.
We've got a motion by Zach and a second by Adam to approve tonight's meeting agenda as published by the city of Milton. Is there any discussion? Seeing that there's no discussion, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion passes unanimously. Item 5 on this evening's agenda is approval of the past meeting minutes. If you were not in attendance at that December meeting, you'll abstain. I'll make a motion to approve the December 12th, 2023 meeting minutes as revised and republished by the city of Milton. The December 12th action report stated that Don Kurt was present at the meeting and he was also absent for that meeting. It should have stated that Billy Carmen was present for the December meeting.
They changed it.
Yeah, I corrected it.
It's been
Okay.
corrected.
So I made a motion to.
I'll
approve-
second.
We've got a motion by Hodge and a second by Adam to approve the December 12th, 2023 meeting minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes unanimously.
Reflect to I think there were some abstentions because they weren't there to just.
Sorry, who abstained? Can you raise your
I
hand?
did. Okay. It was 3.
It's just the 3 of us.
Thanks, Paul.
Give me 1 sec, just to make sure. It's those, a majority of those present and voting. Yep, you're good. Thank you.
Sure. Item 6 on this evening's agenda is consideration of primary variances. The Board of Zoning Appeals is a quasi-judicial board comprised of resident volunteers of the city of Milton. The board is charged with hearing requests for variances from the standards of the zoning ordinance and appeals of administrative determination. With regard to decisions on primary variances, the board's basis for decision is provided by these 4 considerations. A, relief if granted would not offend the spirit or intent of the ordinance. And B, there are such extraordinary and exceptional situations or conditions pertaining to the particular piece of property that the literal or strict application of the ordinance would create an unnecessary hardship due to size, shape, or topography, or other extraordinary and exceptional situations or conditions not caused by the variance applicant. And C, relief if granted would not cause a substantial detriment to the public good and surrounding properties. And D, that the public safety, health, and welfare are secured and a substantial justice is done. Before we hear V24-01, I want to disclose that my former employer from 2002 to 2011 used the services of HLB Gross Collins and specifically Pauline Reynolds. I played no role in engaging Pauline Reynolds or her firm. I'm able to make a decision without prejudice based on the facts presented surrounding V24-01. I'm asking the city attorney to provide guidance and if it's okay for me to participate in this case or if I should recuse myself.
Yeah, based on your comments, I see no conflict in you proceeding.
Thank you. V24-01, 12880 New Providence Road. There are 3 parts to this variance. Michael, will you please present?
You lost internet.
Not required, it's up to you. It's not a legal requirement, it's up to you.
Let's go ahead and continue to proceed.
Continue?
Yep.
Just want to confirm the recording, you can put the recording online later, right? You can put the recording online later.
Now it's on the screen.
So you're okay with that? That's not recording, you're okay with that moving forward?
If it's,
Yeah, just pick up wherever it picks up, right?
If it's not
Yes, I was saying in the past, if it could be added, we were fine with it.
right, if you can add, yeah, I'm concerned about making the record.
Right, that's
the
what I was just
detailed
thinking
record.
too.
Yeah.
If it's literally 10 minutes, you might be best served to.
if
see-
it's not recording, I'd rather just hold off
Yeah,
until it is
that's
recording.
where I'm,
Well, it's up on the screen now. Does that,
do we have any?
Do we need to make a motion to recess for 10 minutes?
Or you wanna,
Hey, Paul, make a motion to recess.
or do we want?
Yeah, that would be, I mean, yeah, I mean, you can.
I'll make a
hang
motion.
or-
I'll make a motion to recess for 10 minutes and we'll get back together at 6:19.
I'll second.
Get a motion from Hodge to recess for 10 minutes and a second from Billy. Is there any discussion?
It starts sooner. Can we start sooner?
Yes.
Very good.
In favor? Okay, motion passes unanimously. We'll reconvene the meeting. Sorry for the technical delay that we had with recording. Michael, did you want to go ahead and present V24-01, 12880 New Providence Road?
Good evening, board members.
Good evening.
Hi.
V24-01, the applicant is Pauline Reynolds and Jennifer Hanley, and the address is 12880 New Providence Road. Before we start, I wanted to point out this is a 3-part variance, but there are 2 structures, meaning one structure encroaches 2 setbacks and the secondary structure encroaches 1 setback. The site is a 1.681 acre parcel located on the west side of New Providence Road. Excuse me. The applicant is seeking the following variances. Part 1, to reduce the 25-foot minimum side yard to 11 feet adjacent to the north property line for an existing wood building accessory structure. Part 2, to reduce the 50-foot minimum rear yard to 28 feet adjacent to the west property line for an existing wood building accessory structure. Part 3, to reduce the 50-foot minimum rear yard to 38 feet adjacent to the west property line for an adjacent metal building accessory structure. The site is a 1.681 acre parcel located on the west side of New Providence Road. The property is zoned AG1 and located in the rural Milton overlay district. Applicable setbacks for lot are a 60-foot front, 2 25-foot sides, and a 50-foot rear setback. The applicant is seeking a 3-part variance for the property. Here's an area of the property. If you follow my cursor, this is the metal building seeking a variance, and the wood building is right here under my cursor. The lot is rectangular in shape with a depth of 357 feet and a width of 197 feet, as shown in Exhibit A. The applicant bought the property in August 2023, and the original single-family home was built in 1967. Here's a zoom in showing the wood building in red and the metal building in blue. The applicant's plan is to demolish the existing single-family home and build a new single-family home on the property. The non-compliant wood and metal buildings were built prior to the year 2000, per the applicant's letter of appeal referencing Fulton County GIS. The non-compliant wood and metal buildings were only brought to the applicant's attention after receiving a new survey from Brumlow Reese & Associates Incorporated. It is community development's policy to not issue building permits when there are non-compliant structures on a property. The applicant also details in the letter of appeal the wood and metal buildings were an important deciding factor to purchase the property, as the applicant is a classic car collector. The adjacent neighbor map is shown in Exhibit B, detailing support from 12840 and 12890 New Providence Road. Here are the letters of support. And here are photos of the property. The view to the east across New Providence Road. The view to the west from the vantage point of the backyard facing outward. View to the north and south facing each side yard. Here's a view of the home from the street. View of the metal and wood buildings from the driveway. View of the metal buildings from the back of the house. And here are more photos of the metal building. On January 9th, 2024, the DRB met and had the following comment. The DRB recommends approval of the variance request with one board member abstaining 5-1. It was acknowledged by the board that both structures predated the incorporation of the city. However, there were discussions about the siding of the metal building and the red color of the wood building. One board member asked if the applicant would be willing to change the metal siding to board and batten, and the applicant replied that the owner's preference is to keep the metal building as is, and pointed out that both direct neighbors on each side of the property support the variance request. It was also discussed by the board if the wood building red color would be painted a color that matches the color of the future single-family home. But ultimately, the board did not make a recommendation on color, as it was pointed out by the board that there are several red-colored barns and accessory structures throughout the city. One board member asked if the applicant considered moving the wood building to meet setback requirements. The applicant replied that moving the wood building would be difficult to ensure structural integrity, as the wood building does not have a permanent foundation. The board inquired if the metal building could be seen from the street after the new construction of the new single-family home was built. The applicant could not confirm this, but he was confident the new single-family home would block the view from the street due to building a larger new single-family home. And the applicant stated the new single-family home will be built in close proximity to both side setbacks. Ultimately, the board discussed and recommended additional screening to be considered to block the view of the wood and metal buildings from the street. The board also discussed neighbor support and recommended the applicant receive support from the board and property to the rear, which would be in addition to the 2 support letters already provided. In summary, the DRB recommended the following condition: 5-1, one member abstaining. Applicant shall explore vegetative screening that will distort the direct view of the wood and metal buildings from the street. And if approved, staff recommends the following condition. Per the survey from Brumlow Reese & Associates received on November 13th, 2023 by the Community Development Department. Any questions for staff?
Yeah, I've got a question for you. Let's take the wood accessory structure first. The exterior of that, so let's set aside the actual location that it's in the setback. Is that something that would be approved or meet city standards and guidelines had it not been in the setbacks?
The material appears to be wood, so yes, that would meet the rural Milton overlay as an allowed material.
Okay, and then with the metal structure that's there, does that meet the current standards and guidelines? Assuming it's not in the setbacks.
Metal siding is not an allowed material in the rural Milton overlay district for siding of the house.
And what is allowed? You mentioned wood, but is there a
Board and
specific type of board and batten?
Yes, brick, stone.
Okay. Any other questions for staff?
Did you have an opportunity to talk to any of the neighbors? I know there's some letters from them. Have you talked to anybody in the surrounding adjacent properties? Did anybody reach out to the city or anything like that?
The neighbor to the north, which I believe is 12890, let me pull it up. 12890, asked for supporting materials, but that's all, the only correspondence I had from them. They wanted to see the site plan, all submitting materials.
There's a property behind that. What is, I mean, it doesn't have, they don't have an approval letter from the property directly behind their house. Is there, seems like I read somewhere that they left a mailbox, or is that a different one?
Yeah, DRB, the applicant mentioned that they reached out, but they haven't heard back. I'll let the applicant expand on that.
Okay.
Speaking of DRB, can you expand a little more on what they said about the metal building? As far as somebody said something about the siding of the metal building. Can you expand on that at all? I was trying to go back and read what you.
Yeah, it started, I think that was the first comment. One board member asked if the applicant would be willing to change the metal siding to board and batten. And he said his preference is to keep it as is.
Do we, sorry, do we know if you're looking at it from the front view, obviously you can't even see the building. It's only if you're coming at it, if you're facing the building, you can only see it from the right side, which is the entrance that swings into it. With the new building that's being proposed, will that obfuscate the visibility of that white metal building currently with the new structure that's being proposed?
That'd be a conversation with the applicant if it would meet that requirement. And I can pull up the photos that are in the packet that I showed an aerial. If you give me a second here. So if you look at the screen, these are additional photos I took from the, after DRB made their comments about visibility from the street, I went ahead and did a second site visit. And you can see right here, this is from vantage point 1 if you're going southbound. So you follow my cursor, this is the view right here. Here's the metal shed, here is the wood building. Here's the vantage point 2, dead center. You cannot see the wood structure or the metal building from the direct right-on view. And 3, kind of catty corner, you can make out the metal building a little bit back here. But those are 3 vantage points I had, and you can't see the wood building from this angle.
And even with 1, I would say you really have to look. It almost lends itself, or it almost, if you're going by or even walking by, you might even think it's just part of the actual housing structure, just from this angle.
Instead of a question, can I just kind of make a statement? This is wintertime. You're going to be able to see a lot more today than you would in the spring or summer. So that's one thing. And we have a letter here from Scott that basically states that all of the people that live around there have moved in since they already had these buildings here way before then. They know what's there. They were willing to live there, buy there, knowing those buildings were that color and in that condition. And actually, they're probably in
So
better condition.
let's hold off on that. Before we make a vote on a motion, we'll have a time where we can go through and discuss different aspects of it. But for right now, if there's any additional questions for staff, if not, then what we'll do is we'll have the applicant come forward. Thank you, Michael. We'll have a combined 10 minutes for the applicant to make an opening presentation, public comment for anyone wishing to speak in favor, and a closing statement from the applicant. There will also be 10 minutes for public comment in opposition. The applicant, please come forward at this time and state your name and address for the record.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'm Scott Reese, Brumbelow Reese and Associates, doing business at 13685 Highway 9, Milton, Georgia, 30004. Here tonight representing the Reynolds and Hanley families in their application for a variance to, or multiple variances, to allow two existing structures to remain on their property. As I'm sure you're aware, in the city of Milton, when we have existing structures, they're considered existing non-conforming, and everything is fine until you want to do something additional to your property. In this case, to remove a 40 or 50-year-old house and rebuild a new one. The applicant purchased the property with the buildings in place, had no awareness whatsoever that there was a problem with zoning or the conformity of those structures. When we performed the survey to go forward with a demolition permit and a building permit for the new residents, we discovered the encroachments, went through the process. As I stated in the letter of appeal, the structures have been in existence prior to 2000. We have records through the Fulton County GIS of those structures being located on the property. All of the surrounding immediate properties have been sold and purchased during that time frame. So those structures were in place when everyone that touches the property purchased that property. We, in addition to the notice that the city sends to everyone, we personally reached out to all of the close by neighbors. The two on either side are occupied properties, and we were able to meet with them and get a letter of support. The property to the west is an unoccupied property owned by a LLC, and I only have a address is furnished from the Fulton County tax assessor is my only access point to them. They were sent a letter along with the site plan and ask either in support or denial or give us a call. I have not been contacted by that property owner. So once again, we're here with the four, as I like to call them, four pillars of a variance requirement. Hardship: you purchase a property and it's the structures are there. They've been there for over 25 years. It's not caused by the applicant. It's an inherited problem. To me, it absolutely meets the requirements of that part of the four. All of the other three requirements of a variance are to do with the surrounding neighborhood, or does it meet the strictest interpretation or intent of the rule? The fact these buildings have been here for 25 years. There are no complaints. There's nothing untoward from these structures. So I would hope that you could take that into consideration, that these structures were inherited. They've been there. They're there. They're not in bad disrepair. They're not. There's no problem with them. The the concern about the visual impact, you would really have to know that those structures were there, slow down and look for them to find them. Now, we will be removing the existing house, and I can give you the concept. There you go. So this is the proposed house. I think you can see that it will be a bigger footprint than the one that's there, and it should create a fair amount of obfuscation of that structure in the back. So I think we would really have to be searching for something to find to deny this applicant to go out on a limb that as you ride by this street, that those structures would cause a detriment to the community at large. So it is the applicant's preference to not extra spend any money on these structures. I mean, it's, you know, if white was not a preferred color for houses or structures in Milton, I think we would all be in a dire situation. So, and, you know, red barns been here longer than me. So I think we're really trying to search for a problem that's not there. So that being said, I don't know that you need to hear me orate or prorate anything else. So if you've got any questions, I would be more than happy to try to answer those. Thank you.
Mr. Reese, I've got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
So the two accessory structures, I understand they're in the setbacks.
Yes.
But bringing them up to the current standards in terms of design with a condition of board and batten, does that create an issue for the application?
It's an untoward expense. So to be able to tell that white structure, unless you are in extreme proximity to it, to be able to tell that it was a metal sheathed structure as opposed to a hardy plank board and batten or something like that, you would have to almost have telescopic vision from the street to be able to tell the difference from, it's still going to be painted. So it's purely an aesthetics. And I'm sorry, I can't imagine from the distance that you would have to be, unless you were invited onto that property, to be offended by the material of that structure.
I'm not looking at it from a visual standpoint from the street. I'm looking at it from the fact that it's an accessory structure that's in the city of Milton and meeting those guidelines and the requirements. I understand there's a hardship in terms of where it's located and asking to have it moved.
Right.
But
I think
put that condition on there to.
Yeah. So to me, then, you know, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of structures in the city of Milton that were pre-existing prior to the creation of the city of Milton. And, you know, the fact that they want to build a bigger house is what triggers this requirement for variance. I mean, I understand, but I find it hard to believe that changing the sheathing, the exterior of this structure would be beneficial.
Well, let me ask you this real quick.
Yes.
You mentioned there's red barns all over the city. There's
Yes.
red barns all over that area. Is there any reason why they changed the paint color after they bought the home from red to white? I'm familiar with the neighbors. I'm familiar with the house. I mean, and
So
they have now repainted this to a much brighter, more visible color.
So it was a dull red before?
Yeah,
I
same
don't have
color
a
as the
record
shed.
of that. I mean,
It was the same color as the shed.
okay.
And now it's much more visible, which kind of brings me, I kind of lean towards what Hodge is saying to an extent, is that, you know, if we're building a new house and all that has to be compliant, the other shed's compliant, why wouldn't we want the siding, you know, why wouldn't you want the siding of this building, you know, it not being a barn housing animals, not being the more traditional
Right.
Milton style outbuilding? Why would you not want that to be conforming, you know, to the look and feel of the rural overlay?
I think to address it as that this structure would be painted the same palette as the color scheme of the existing or the new residence. If the new residence is going to be red brick, and I'm not familiar with that, but to me, that would be a much more palatable solution, would be that the existing structure be match the palette, the color palette of the proposed new house, but to tear the siding off and replace with another siding that, I'm sorry, I just think you would have to really be close to distinguish the exterior of this structure. So if I can get, if it's the visual acumen that we're looking for, then, you know, matching the, and that was one of the DRB's comments is, or in the discussion was to match the color of the proposed residence, which makes much more sense to me if you're looking to, I mean, I think once the new house comes up, you're going to be really hard to see it.
Yeah.
And if I've got the neighbors on either side that are completely fine with it, and then, you know, I've approached the ones in the back.
And I was going to ask you that question too. I mean, when you talked to the neighbors, was it in regard to the locations or was it regard to anything about
It was
the buildings
everything
that's being-
about it. It's like, are you fine with this? And that's why, you know, the letter I would hope would be kind of self-explanatory that we're fine with this.
Any other questions for the applicant? Mr. Reese, if you want to hang on for one
Yes.
second.
I think Billy might have a question.
Yeah,
Oh, do you?
would they be opposed to putting some screening in front of it? Because
Yeah, so that was when we finished the construction of the new house. I think that appropriate landscaping of that would not be a condition that there would be much, you know, I can definitely see that would be.
I mean, if you've screened it, I understand your point about the board and batten thing. If you're on the street, you wouldn't know it until you got up. I understand that. But it kind of does stand out back there. And some of the other things we've done, we've added screening to block it
And
from the
I
street.
think with, you know, typically in this price range of this house, there's a landscape architect that's involved in the planning plan. But I think that it would be completely appropriate that a visual vegetative screening from the street would be, or it could be reviewed by the arborist. Maybe that would be the most simple, is the city arborist would review the building site plan to seek some visual screening from the street vegetatively. Did I somewhat try to answer it?
Yeah.
Let me ask you this on the picture you're showing here.
Yes.
In the small picture, and I'm looking at the concrete driveway in the larger picture, and you've got that kind of green in the small corner picture. Is that all driveway?
Yeah, that's right. And the applicant sent me to this, and you know, this sketch that they did is a lot. It took me back a little bit. It took me just a second to figure out. They tried to color the concrete green was my interpretation. That's not my rendition.
Sure. But I guess that's my question is,
I'm looking at
the driveway essentially is going to go back around the house, and
To
those doors are
access.
the 3 doors are facing north. So it would go, and there would be a driveway to pull in their collector cars. Is that your understanding?
My understanding is that they don't want to drive these cars through mud. So that would be a driveway in that going back. But we will have to meet impervious and stormwater treatment. So their dream is, I crush a lot of dreams. So it will have to meet all of the city's requirements for stormwater management. I've got to have room for an initial and reserve septic field. So everything they draw is probably not going to be, but we are seeking or will be an access, but it may have to be a permeable surface to get back there. So I'm just saying, this is what they want,
Sure.
but I don't know that I'm going to get everything they want. I think the footprint of the house is a legitimate. That sketch is it's a sketch. It's a little sketchy too.
Well, also too, moving that driveway on the left-hand side of the house is going to open up the view of
That's where I'm saying,
building.
but if we put curves in there and we plant and break up the background.
Yeah.
Any other questions for the applicant? Thank you, Mr. Reese.
Thank you.
Michael, do we have anyone wishing to speak in favor of this application?
We do not.
What about to speak in opposition?
We also do not.
Thank you. Mr. Reese, before you walk away, if you'd like to make any closing statements, you're certainly welcome to do that. It's not necessary.
No, I just, I would hope that we would pay particular attention to existing situations in the city of Milton that were there prior to its existence. And if we want to keep a non-monolithic, development plan, we need to be aware that we're going to have a lot of these things that are grandfathered in other situations. And everything's not going to be a cookie cutter development. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Any additional questions for staff before I close the public portion? I'm going to close the public portion of application V24-01. I'll make a motion on V24-01, 12880 New Providence Road. It's a three-part variance with the following conditions. Per the survey from Rumbelow, Reese and Associates received on November 13th, 2023 by the Community Development Department as the first condition. The second is that the metal accessory structure is to meet the current design standards, board and batten. You have a second?
Second.
Get a motion from Hodge, a second from Adam.
Just to be clear, did you get, there was a motion to approve?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
I wasn't
Motion
sure
to
if I had
approve.
heard that.
Yeah, I didn't hear it.
Okay.
Say that
It's a
again.
motion to approve.
Do we have discussion before?
Yeah, we need to have discussion
No.
before we do the
We
motion,
can,
don't
we
we?
did,
No, we'll do the after the motion.
Okay, yeah.
Second. Let me start over on that one. V24-01, 12880 New Providence Road. It's a three-part variance. I'm going to make a motion to approve the three-part variance with two conditions. The first condition is per the survey from Rumbelow, Reese and Associates received on November 13th, 2023 by the Community Development Department. The second condition is the metal accessory structure is to meet the current design standards of board and batten or a similar wood material.
second.
We had a motion from Hodge and a second with two conditions. The first condition is per the survey on November 13th, and the second is a requirement that the metal accessory structure exterior meet the current standards of board and batten. I'll open up for discussion. Since I made the motion on that, I'll start. I know a lot of our discussion has been involved around visibility from the street, but I think that's one aspect of it. I'm trying to set aside the fact that both structures are in the setbacks. That to me is a hardship. It's hard to move those structures themselves. But I think if we're going to leave the structures in place, they should meet our current guidelines. The red accessory structure is wood. It meets the guidelines from that perspective. I believe that the white structure, which is significantly larger, should also meet the guidelines if we're going to allow it to stay within that. And I can't, looking at our four considerations, financial hardship is not a hardship. The hardship of it being in a setback is something that I could consider to be a hardship from the fact that it was there before the city was formed.
I disagree. I think it is a hardship. I've built one of those structures before and I understand how it's made. And what it's made of, probably on the inside. And if we ask them to do that, they might as well just tear it down and build it somewhere else. Because you take that, the skin of that building is part of the structural integrity of that building. And by taking it down without taking the roof off, I don't know that it'll keep standing up. I think it's an over ask. And I agree with Scott. I think if they paint it and put some trees in front of it, that it gets us both what we want, because you can't really tell it's metal.
I'd agree with
I
that
agree with
sentiment.
Zach as well.
I agree with Zach.
I just feel it's a little bit of an overreach to ask them to go in and change out
And the metal, the siding is the integrity of the building, because there's not much framing in it. It's,
Got corners in metal, or
Yeah, that's
corners in
pretty
the
much it.
skin, and that's it.
yeah, and it appears to be a board and bat look. And I just don't, I think the screening from the street, maybe change the color would suffice for me. Because you're like you said, he'd have to tear it down and start all over to change it. I don't know that you could adhere the new, whether it be sim plank or, hardy plank over that metal. It just wouldn't hold it.
I don't like the idea of having 3 different material structures on a property like this. And I understand what everybody's saying. I guess the biggest key for me is that, something like this is going to be there for a long period of time. Yes, I think the color being a different color would make a huge difference. I also think, to an extent, though, if you're going to build and put the money into the property and you're going to abide by those codes, then, the look and feel of the overlay, it should be that, that property's in the overlay, and I think it should be at least have a similar look and feel to what else is out there. And to an extent, maybe you're right. Maybe you're right that you change the color, you put the screening up, and that does get us both kind of what we want, in the fact that it does, change the look and feel of the building from what it is now. I just don't think it should stay the way it is right now on the property, even if a new home is built. I think there needs to be something done, whether it's updating the siding, covering the siding, making it look different in some way, paint, or, screening is screening. But
But if you painted a different color, it's not going to look like board and batten from the street like it does now. I mean, if you painted it red to match the other building, or, it just that doesn't make sense to me. I mean, I understand that it's white and it stands out a little bit more, but no one's been having a problem with this for 20 plus years. And all of a sudden, just because they're building a house, I disagree. I think that, adding the screening, I understand that. It makes it so maybe it's not as noticeable from the street. But if you painted it red, I think it's going to show a lot more than what it does now.
One of the things that I want to point out is during the DRB presentation, Mr. Reese was asked a question about board and batten, and he said it's not their preference. He didn't get into a discussion as to whether or not the existing sheeting would be compromised if it was replaced with board and batten. And then again this evening, during his presentation, he just said it's not their preference. If there was an issue with replacing the existing sheathing with board and batten, I think he would have brought that to our attention. He just, again, said it's not their preference to do that.
So you're wanting them to basically tear it down. That's my discussion is what Zach had brought up and what others have brought up. It wouldn't make sense for them to do that. You're asking for them to pretty much demolish the building then.
I'm certainly not saying that they should tear the building down. What I'm saying is during his presentation, I would have thought he would have made a comment related to, hey, if you're asking for the board and batten, keep in mind that that's going to create an issue in terms of the structural integrity and that it's not possible.
Well, I understand what you're saying, but the fact that they did leave that out, and maybe it just didn't come to mind that the structural integrity there would be a problem with that. I just disagree.
So let's call for a vote on this motion and see where we end up with on it. So I made a motion on V24-01. I had a second from Adam. It's a three-part variance. The variance was for an approval with two conditions. One is per Brumbelow Reese and Associates, November 13, 2023, Community Development Department plan. And the second was that the metal accessory structure is to meet the current design standards of Board and Batten. All those in favor of approving the motion before us, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Hey,
The motion fails. I'll open it up for a new motion in a second.
I'd like to make a motion for V 24-01, 12880 New Providence Road. I would like to motion to approve the three variances or the three parts with two additions. One would be trees and vegetation added as approved by the city arborist when time for that to happen comes through. And then two, I expect there to be variances for the actual house and approvals for the house and some sort of consideration in that variance or in the approval for the house to be built on the color palette and what is most suitable for the city, either the color of the house or leave it white as it is.
Did you want to say screen trees from the view of the street? Or
Yes,
did you mean for the side? Okay.
view of the street. And then whatever approvals need to take place for the actual house, then it to be determined if it should be painted or not based upon all the plans and everything at that point.
What are you looking for it to do, depending on
Go
what the
back to
house is?
the
Do you want it to match the,
You're demolishing.
I mean, I'm not sure what we're trying to accomplish with.
I want the
color.
city to have say in whether or not it needs to be painted or not when the other variances are requested to actually
And
build the house.
what are they going to base that on?
Do
Do you want it to match? Are you looking for it to match?
either
to-
match the house or it's determined that it's better to leave it in its original color based on the trees getting cut down and the house being tore down and just to have the city have some say in the color of the structure, the metal structure, once those other variances or those other approvals come through.
Paul, can we say
Give me a
something
way
to
to
the
better say
effect
it,
that the exterior color is subject to the city architect's approval? For both the
Yes, I
primary and
was certainly
accessory
going
structures?
towards it being the city architect, and I think he's going to establish a color requirement consistent with City of Milton zoning ordinance intentions, something like that.
I adopt that into my motion. Let's go.
So we've got a motion from Zach and a second.
Second.
Billy. Okay, let's stop me if I'm wrong on any of your conditions.
Got it.
And then we'll further clarify it.
Yep.
So we've got a motion from Zach and a second from Billy to approve V24-01, all three of parts of the variance. Per the Brumbelow Reese and Associates survey received on November 13, 2023 by the Community Development Department to screen the accessory structures from the street as approved by the city arborist. And the next one is The color of the accessory structures are to be approved by the city architect.
Consistent with the city of Milton zoning ordinances intent and purpose.
Consistent with the city of Milton zoning ordinances. Intent and purpose.
Perfect.
Let's open up for discussion. You made the motion. You want to go ahead and start?
I'm good. Y'all go ahead. I think I've said my piece.
I'm in agreement. I think with what he's proposing is fair for both sides, and I think that'll meet in the middle to where it'll allow us to be able to conform with what the city wants in parallel with what the particular resident is trying to accomplish. Given what we've seen with some of the renderings, I can't imagine that they're going to allow things to be in an aesthetic displeasing manner. I also don't feel like it's going to create a scenario where we can't meet in the middle when you're having approval by the arborist as well as the city of Milton zoning for ordinance for the coloring to be able to match or encode with what they're trying to get accomplished. I think if anything further than that, I think would just be a little excessive in my opinion, but.
As far as the vegetative screening, what are we talking about here? Just from the street view or from any surrounding property? I mean, the 10 acres behind is looking for a development. So that's an empty house right now, and they're looking to develop that. And then there's the neighboring properties from both sides.
I think the way it's written now, or the
What
condition
is-
is placed on it, it's
what-
up to the city arborist to determine, not necessarily.
Where and
for us
how
to
and
set
what?
Location.
Or just from the street?
I'm good with the city arborist determining where and how. Yeah.
Oh, I think if I heard it was from the street.
From the street.
Yeah, we would prefer guidance for the arborist. If you want to screen a certain side, then she would help with species.
So what do? Do you change it now?
I would say from the
can
street, because if they come
revise
in to
your
develop the
condition.
10 acres, it's,
You
they know what
can,
they're coming into.
You want to revise your condition?
you can amend your condition if you want.
No, I think I'm going to leave it.
Any other discussion? Okay, V,
I have a question. Did you say from the street?
I
or
did.
is it-
That was my original intent.
good.
Yeah.
any other discussion points? Okay, we've got a motion from Zach, a second from Billy on V 24-01 to approve the three-part variance per the Brumlow Reese and Associates, Inc. Survey received on November 13, 2023 by the Community Development Department. To screen the existing accessory structure from the street. And as it relates to the color of the structure, per the city architect intent and purpose of the zoning ordinance. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you so much.
The second variance this evening is V 24-02, 1470 Red Road, with a request from the applicant to withdraw. Michael, will you please present?
Yes. Everyone see the screen?
No,
No,
now.
yes.
All right. This is the applicant's request for withdrawal. He states that he is no longer seeking a variance in his request to withdraw his variance application. And here's his letter. Any questions for staff?
I'll make a motion to withdraw V 24-02, 1470 Red Road without prejudice.
Second.
Get a motion from Hodge, second from Adam to withdraw B 24-02 without prejudice. Is there any discussion? The only thing I'll state is that the applicant has requested for us to withdraw it. I see no need for us not to grant the withdrawal. Call for a vote on the motion to withdraw V 24-021470 Red Road. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes unanimously. The third variance this evening is V 24-031800 Providence Farms Lane. Michael, will you please present?
Did I hit somebody else?
Yeah.
B 24-03, the applicant is Julie Martin, and the address is 1800 Providence Farms Lane. Requested variance to allow proposed detached garage accessory structure to be located in front of the primary single-family home. Section 64462I. The site is a 2.25 acre parcel located at the southwest intersection of Providence Farms Lane and Providence Road. The property is zoned R2 and located in the rural Milton overlay district. Applicable setbacks for lot are a 60-foot front setback. I'll flip back. Excuse me, a 60-foot front setback, 15-foot side interior setback, and a 30-foot side street setback, and a 40-foot rear setback. The applicant is seeking to allow proposed detached garage accessory structure to be located in front of the primary single-family home. Here's the aerial of the property. And as you can see, the house is oriented towards the side street, Providence Farms Lane, rather than the front setback on Providence Road. And here's the existing house. And here's the location of the proposed detached garage. The lot has a depth of 676 feet and a width of 240 feet. The proposed detached garage location is highlighted in red, and I bolded the setbacks due to the unique shape of the property. Again, 60-foot front, 15 side interior, 30 side street, 40 rear. The lot has an overall drop-in grade of 44 feet, sloping in a downward direction from Providence Road. The highest point here, lowest point here. The septic tanks and lines are located west of the primary single-family home, and the tree survey, as shown in Exhibit B, details the many trees in the property. As referenced in the applicant's letter of appeal, the proposed detached garage location was picked with the least amount of tree disturbance. The applicant bought the property in October 2022. Excuse me, here is the tree survey. As you can see, there are many trees throughout the property. And if you follow my cursor, this is the location they proposed detached garage. The applicant bought the property in October 2022, and the single-family home was built in 1990. The proposed detached garage dimensions are 36 feet by 32 feet, and the elevations are shown in Exhibit C, detailing a farmhouse-style architecture with a cupola on top of the standing seam metal roof. The applicant is proposing a white board and batten material to match the existing single-family home. They discussed different color options of DRB. I'll cover that in the DRB summary. And here are the elevations of all four sides. Here's the interior showing that it's 1,094 square feet unheated, and there is no second floor. The adjacent neighbor maps is shown in Exhibit D, showing support from 13210 and 13220 Providence Road and 1790 and 1805 Providence Farms Lane. Here are the letters of support.
Will you go back to that?
Yes.
Thanks.
Here's a view to the east, which is in the location where the detached garage will be located. View to the west, which is from the rear yard. View to the north, across the street, and a view to the south towards the rear of the property. Excuse me, the view to the north is for the side street, Providence Farm Lane. I want to clarify that. Here's a view from Providence Farm Lane showing the existing house. And here are more views of the house. You can see how, while it does drop in grade from Providence Road, it also drops from the front more substantially than back where the house is located. If you see the drop right here where my cursor is, you can see how it drops towards the front of the property. Here are more photos of the house. This is the rear yard. And the green arrow shows the location, the proposed detached garage location. On January 9th, the DRB met and had the following comments. The DRB recommends approval of the variance request. The board acknowledged there are exceptional circumstances for the property due to the unique shape of the lot and the fact that the existing single-family home orients towards the side street setback, Providence Farms Lane, rather than the front setback, Providence Road. The farmhouse-style architecture of the detached garage was received favorably by the board. It was brought up by the applicant that they are considering a darker color, iron or peppercorn, than the proposed white color that matches the existing house. This suggestion of considering a darker color was received favorably by the board, as a darker color would allow the garage to stand out while also blending with the existing white color of the home. The board acknowledged the applicant had 4 letters of support and asked why the one bordering property owner to the south had not provided a letter. The applicant replied back, she has put 2 letters in the mailbox and has not heard back. If approved, staff recommends the following condition. Per the variance site plan from Crestview Engineering LLC received on December 5th, 2023 by the Community Development Department, and to provide a foundation survey prior to vertical construction of the proposed detached garage. Any questions for staff?
Yeah, I have a question. Basically, Providence Farms Lane is the main frontage of this house. Mailbox, driveway, address, obviously. So why would the front, or can you explain why the frontage is on, I guess, the east side of the property?
Yes. In our zoning ordinance, the front setback is the shortest side.
Okay. So,
If you have 2 frontages, the shorter side is the front.
okay. If the frontage was Providence Farms Lane, would there be any reason for variance?
There would be no need for a variance. I actually measured it. This is behind the front plane of the house. So as is, if Providence Farm Lane was the front setback, no variance would be required.
And they could just do what they wanted to do based on this plan?
Correct.
And then behind the property, or the 15-foot side interior, do you have any idea how far the next property building would be located? Because it looks like there's a creek with, at least 100 feet from the creek or so would be this structure.
You see the
from the
aerial.
creek,
Check
which
it out.
would mean,
Yeah, that's the closest house right there. So I would guess at least 200 feet, maybe 150 distance.
You got a 75-foot buffer here.
on both sides. Yeah. So, I mean, from the view, it's easily 200 feet from the structure adjacent.
Correct. Yeah.
Michael, I've got a question for you. This variance is dealing with a garage accessory structure. If at some point in the future, that garage accessory structure, they want to add a component such as a bathroom to it or living quarters, et cetera, what would set that apart from us approving a garage accessory structure? Or could they convert it in the future without getting a variance, or how does that work? Can you explain that?
That's a great question. We actually touched that with Julie. If she wanted to make it an apartment, or I want to call it an apartment, a guest house, it would have an oven, a bathroom, and living quarters. Then she would have to seek a second variance because a guest house has to be behind the front plane of the house. It can't be next to it. So she would have to seek another variance. We covered that during the pre-application meetings.
Any other questions for staff?
And what is defined as the front plane? Is that the front structure or the back structure? So if it was an inch behind the house, does that count, or what's the?
Right. So
what's
if
the
you look
rule?
at my cursor right here, so
Yeah.
here's the front plane.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So it's like right parallel.
So if it's 1 inch back, then she wouldn't need a variance.
no, so the rear plane of the house would be where it ends,
Got it.
little
Okay.
buildable area. So like right here.
Got it.
So she would need setbacks likely, and that would just be a tough
Yeah.
orange to squeeze, if that's an expression.
Any other questions?
So this building is just a garage? Nothing, no finished upstairs, attic space or anything, just a garage?
Correct. Yes.
And if they wanted to change it, they'd have to permit the other stuff and then come back and get another variance to do that, which they couldn't do
Well,
because it won't
typically
be
do,
behind
like,
the,
storage.
yeah,
If they wanted to make a second level, as
For
long as there's no livable area,
okay.
they would just go through permitting.
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate it. There'll be a combined 10 minutes for the applicant to make a opening presentation, public comment from anyone wishing to speak in favor, and a closing statement from the applicant. We'll also have 10 minutes for anyone wishing to speak in opposition. Good evening. Would you please state your name and address for the record, please?
Good evening. My name is Julie Martin, and I am the applicant and owner of 1800 Providence Farms Lane. I'm not coming back to get another variance. I've had so much fun with this one. It's all good. It's actually, Michael's lovely. It's been as lovely as it can be, but it was a surprise to all of us that that was my front yard, that Providence was the front yard. So we didn't anticipate that at all. I actually had only found out when I came in with my survey trying to understand where the building lines were. And I think it was Emily.
Yeah, I told you.
Yeah, that was fun. Surprise. And so I don't think it's intuitive, in terms of the four pillars of seeking the variance. It wouldn't offend the intent of the ordinance, because I don't think it would be intuitive to anyone driving down, or any of the neighbors, or anyone that was our front yard and that we were putting an accessory structure in the front yard. So hopefully it'll be an improvement and improve our home value and that of the neighbors, and hopefully tidy up some of our accessory structures. You saw the 66 Chevelle in the yard. We also are a classic car connoisseur. We will ultimately have a lift, if all things work out, for additional cars there. The property is very challenging in terms of the slope. The home was built in 1990, so the two-car garage is very small. The ceilings are very low. The doors are very narrow. So when you take your big, 2023 SUV in there, it's very tight. It doesn't really function like a modern garage should. And because of the topography, we couldn't really expand the existing garage. And that's when we started looking and walking around the property to find about anywhere else that we could put the building, once we figured out that we would have to seek a variance to add the garage to our front yard. But with the septic in the backyard and to the right of the basement, and with the slope and all the plethora of trees that we have, which are lovely, they're wonderful until you need to cut them down. This made the most sense, and visually and functionally, it is the best place for this home. I also got married, and I married the fire chief of Johns Creek, so I get a required city car as well that we need to house and find a place for too, which is wonderful, but it just adds to the complications with our little dinky two-car garage. We took a lot of care in the design of it. We really wanted it to look like a barn but function like a garage. We do want to do a darker color. We've got the four-board horse fencing that's dark, and I think it will blend in. None of our neighbors really and truly should see it because of the trees that are around all of us. We're very heavily wooded. So hopefully, if they do see it, it'll be very cute. We want to do board and batten, metal roof, and we even got a copper weather vane with that fire helmet. So want to honor my new husband's 30 years of service with that. But we have the general contractor. My builder is also going to be building Heatherton on Mayfield, so he's doing me a favor. And so it will be a wonderfully well-built, beautifully permitted structure, and hopefully, like I said, an improvement to everybody around us. And Easy sell when I go to unload the sucker.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant? If you want to hang on for 1 second, Michael, do we have anyone wishing to speak in favor or support
We do not.
and in opposition?
We do not.
Julie, if you want to make any closing statements, you're welcome to make any closing statements. It's not necessary. It's completely up to you. Any questions for staff before I close the public portion? Okay, we have V24 dash, I believe it's 031800 Providence Lane. I'll make a motion to approve V24-031800 Providence Lane to allow a proposed detached structure. Let me back up. To allow a proposed detached garage accessory structure to be located in the front of the primary single-family home. The conditions on it will be per the variance site plan from Crestview Engineering received on December 5th, 2023 by the Community Development Department. The second condition is a foundation survey prior to vertical construction on the proposed detached garage.
I'll second.
Get a motion from Hodge, a second from Billy. I believe this application meets the 4 criteria. The first one being relief if granted would not offend the spirit or intent of the ordinance. This property has frontage on 2 separate roads. If we took away that portion of the ordinance, the way the house is currently oriented, the longer frontage is where he would probably build.
Right.
The next one being, I think there's some extraordinary and exceptional situations to this piece of property, specifically the shape, as well as the topo. There are a lot of trees on the property. I believe the applicant has located the best possible position for this property, for this structure. And I think we are protecting the public good by granting this variance. And I don't see we're compromising public health, safety, or welfare. The applicant does have the support of the adjacent property owners. Other comments, discussion? Okay, let's call for a vote on V24-031800 Providence Farms Lane to allow a proposed detached garage accessory structure to be located in front of the primary single-family home with 2 conditions. The first being per the variance site plan from Crestview Engineering LLC received on December 5th, 2023 by the Community Development Department. The second condition is to provide a foundation survey prior to vertical construction of the proposed detached garage. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you and continue to work with the city staff. Item 7 on our agenda this evening is consideration of appeals and secondary variances.
None.
8 is the 2024 calendar. Did I have that right? Sorry.
No, old business is none.
Sorry. Old business was none. And then item 9 is new business, the variance data from 23 versus 24. As Michael gets ready to present, I believe we started this last year. And so we try to do is a recap at the end of the year and give everybody an idea of how the different variance cases fall in line in terms of categories, whether they're approved or denied, et cetera. Take it away, Michael.
Thanks, Hodge. Yeah, so as Echo Hodge said, here's year over year from 2022 to 2023. We had 22 variance cases presented in 2022, 20 approved, in total 30 total variances granted. In 2023, we had 19 cases presented, 17 approvals, and 24 total variances granted. Here is the 2022 variance data, and it breaks down the specific type of variances granted from existing structures, new structures, existing structures, and setbacks. And I wanted to point out that 50% of all the variances granted from last year were existing structures. And here's the data from 2023. Less total variances granted, but an increase in the number of existing structures.
What's the difference in approved and granted? Variance cases approved versus total variances granted.
So if you go on the first page, so first applicant had 3 part variances.
There we go.
Yeah.
Got it.
And yeah, as you can see, less total variances and more existing structures. And I don't know if you want to call it planting the seed, but I talked with the ComDev director about potentially exploring the opportunity of doing some admin variances for existing structures. We're going to come back before you in the spring, potentially summer, with some more data. But it is something we're looking at to do in the future.
Michael, are you defining an existing structure as something that predates the city, 2006?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, we haven't ironed out what that would entail. It'd be some sort of admin process that has to meet current design standards, obviously. And then we would send letters to adjoining property owners. But that's just beginning stages. We wouldn't move forward with anything without your blessing, of course. But that presentation's in the spring.
So, and the thought around that is if there's an administrative request that happens, if one of the adjacent property owners objects to it, it would certainly come before here. It would not.
Right, it would
You
come straight to
handled
BZA
administrative.
if we had one opposition. For current setback admin variances, which is 10%, we send out letters within 300 feet, and then we wait 15 days. And if we don't hear anything, Bob will make his determination if it meets all 4 hardship criteria.
So what are you projecting for 2024?
Yeah, I don't know, the current trends from 30 to 24, let's make it 18. Hopefully that's not what the S&P is for the year, but trending upward. But yeah.
Thanks, Michael.
You're welcome.
Nice work.
Thank you.
Next item we had was the training schedule for February 20th for that meeting. Nick is actually going to be out. Do we want to try? What's our schedule and our load for the next meeting? How many cases
We have no submittals as of today.
as of today?
So, I mean, unless Paul's objection, March could be the training before the actual meeting, if that's what you wanted to all do.
Can't imagine it's an issue, but hang on.
When is that,
my-
March 8th?
Did Paul have a conflict?
I had a potential conflict and I did work that out this morning, so February would work, but
Okay.
March doesn't appear to be. I have a seminar the next day. That's fine. I'll train one day and
My thought is,
teach other people the
and
next
it's open
day.
for discussion, is we skip February. Rather have everybody there and then maybe do it an hour early. So we start at 5 o'clock. And in the meantime, if you have any questions or anything like that, just reach out to staff and they'll certainly help you out along that. So what we'll do is we'll do our training at 5 and then at 6 o'clock, we'll start our regular meeting. So it'll be a longer day, but then we're not having to meet in February with no caseload.
I'm good with that.
Sounds good.
Yeah, March 19 is the March date.
Okay. Last item on our agenda is adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
I second.
Get a motion from Adam to adjourn and a second from Billy. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion passes unanimously. We're adjourned.